I sat alone at my sister's wedding. A stranger asked me to dance. He was a millionaire. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's go back to our main character, Olivia Bennet. The ballroom of the Callaway Grand Hotel glowed beneath warm crystal chandeliers, their lights spilling across polished marble floors and champagne glasses that glittered like tiny stars. Soft music drifted through the room while laughter rose and fell like waves. It should have felt magical. It should have felt like one of those nights people remember forever. But Olivia Bennet felt like she was disappearing. She sat alone at the very last table near the back wall, fingers wrapped tightly around a glass of water she had barely touched all night. Around her, couples laughed, families hugged, cameras flashed, and waiters moved gracefully between tables carrying silver trays of food. Tonight was her younger sister Chloe's wedding day. Olivia should have been smiling. Instead, her chest felt tight. Across the ballroom, Chloe laughed while dancing with her new husband beneath soft golden lights. Their parents stood nearby, smiling proudly, their eyes following Chloe like she was the center of the universe. Olivia looked down for a second. Then she heard a familiar laugh. Her stomach dropped instantly. She slowly looked up again. Ethan, no, not Ethan Callaway. Ryan, her ex-boyfriend Ryan, the man she had spent 5 years loving. 5 years planning a future with. 5 years believing would eventually become her husband. He was standing near the dance floor with his hand around another woman's waist. Olivia knew that woman. She knew her very well. Amanda, one of Chloe's bridesmaids. The same woman Olivia had quietly asked Ryan about months ago. The same woman he had smiled about and said, "You're being ridiculous." Olivia stared as Amanda leaned close and whispered something in Ryan's ear. He laughed. Then he kissed her forehead. Olivia felt her heartbeat stop for a moment. Chloe suddenly walked toward their table and smiled brightly. Olivia, why? Are you sitting here alone? Olivia forced a smile. Just tired. Chloe looked over toward Ryan and Amanda and lowered her voice slightly. Oh, you saw that? Olivia looked at her slowly. Chloe hesitated. I didn't tell you because I didn't want drama at my wedding. Olivia blinked once, then twice. You knew. Chloe looked uncomfortable. Only for a few weeks. For a moment, the noise inside the ballroom disappeared completely. Olivia stared at her own sister. 5 years of love had ended, but somehow that hurt less than hearing those words. She slowly stood up, pushing back her chair. Her eyes burned. Her hands trembled. She just needed air. Just needed to get out before she completely fell apart. Then a voice beside her suddenly said, "Would you dance with me?" Olivia blinked and looked up slowly. For a second, she wondered if she had imagined a voice. The man standing beside her was tall, maybe 6'2", dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit that somehow looked expensive without trying too hard. Dark hair, calm blue eyes, a faint smile, not the kind that demanded attention, the kind that quietly earned it. Olivia stared at his outstretched hand. "Excuse me," she asked softly. "Dance with me," he said again, "unless you are planning to escape through the kitchen." Olivia glanced toward the ballroom doors and then back at him. Was it that obvious? The corner of his mouth lifted. "You look like somebody preparing for a prison break." Despite everything, despite the pressure inside her chest and the tears still threatening to appear, a small laugh escaped her. It surprised her more than him. He extended his hand again. "Come on." Olivia looked at it for a moment. "Do I know you?" "No." "Then why are you asking me?" He shrugged lightly. "Because nobody should sit alone at a wedding." She looked at him suspiciously. "You're not some kind of wedding crasher, are you?" His eyebrows lifted. "Interesting first guess." "I'm serious." "Depends." He leaned slightly closer. "Do I look like a wedding crasher?" Olivia narrowed her eyes dramatically and studied him from head to toe. Honestly. No. He smiled. Good. She folded her arms. You look more like a guy who owns several boats and says things like, let us summer in Italy this year. He stared at her for 2 seconds. Wow. What? That was oddly specific. Olivia shrugged. I watch movies. For the first time he laughed. Not politely. Not fake. A real laugh. Warm and low. Something about it felt strange because it immediately softened the sharp edges of the night around her. He kept holding out his hand. Olivia stared at it one more second before finally placing hers in his. His hand felt warm. Steady. He gently led her toward the dance floor while soft piano music drifted through the ballroom. The lights seemed dimmer near the center of the room, golden reflections moving across the polished floor. Olivia suddenly realized something. Wait. He looked at her. I do not dance. Everybody says that. No, I really do not dance. You will survive. You sound very confident for someone about to regret this. They moved into position, and he placed a respectful hand near her shoulder while she awkwardly followed his lead. 3 seconds later, Olivia stepped directly onto his shoe. Hard. His face tightened for half a second. Oh my God. Olivia covered her mouth instantly. I am so sorry. It is fine. 2 steps later, she stepped on him again. No. Still fine. Then a third time. He looked down at his shoes slowly and sighed dramatically. I think my shoes just filed for divorce. Olivia stared at him. Then she laughed. Really laughed. The kind she had not heard from herself in weeks. Around them the music continued playing, but for the first time that night Olivia forgot Ryan existed. She forgot Amanda existed. She forgot the painful knot sitting inside her chest. She looked up at the stranger and smiled. So, she asked, bride side or groom side? He looked at her for a moment and smiled back. Neither. Olivia looked at him for a moment, confused by the answer. Neither. It sat there between them while the music continued around them. Neither, she repeated. So, you're not with Chloe's family? No. Not with Tyler's family either? No. He kept smiling. Olivia narrowed her eyes again. Okay, now you sound suspicious. Suspicious. Yes. She tilted her head. Who comes to a wedding and belongs to absolutely nobody? He looked toward the dance floor for a second. Maybe I just got lost. Olivia laughed softly. In a suit like that, he glanced down at himself. What is wrong with my suit? Nothing. She shrugged. It just looks expensive. How expensive? Olivia stared at him dramatically. Like, this jacket probably costs more than my rent. He almost laughed again. Almost. You are very honest. I probably should not be. The music slowly changed. The crowd shifted around them. Olivia noticed she had relaxed without realizing it. Her shoulders no longer felt tight. Her breathing had slowed. For the first time all evening, the pressure inside her chest was not crushing her. Ethan noticed it too. He gently nodded toward a set of glass doors leading outside. Want some air? Olivia followed his eyes. The ballroom suddenly felt too loud again. Too bright. Too crowded. Yes, she said quietly. They stepped onto the balcony overlooking the city. Cool night air brushed against Olivia's face instantly. The sounds of traffic far below mixed with distant music spilling out from inside the ballroom. Downtown lights stretched for miles beneath them like tiny stars scattered across dark velvet. For a while neither of them spoke. Olivia leaned lightly against the railing and stared outward. Ethan stood beside her without saying anything, without pushing, without asking questions. It felt strangely comforting. Then Olivia finally broke the silence. I designed all the invitations for tonight. Ethan turned toward her. Really? She nodded. The menus too. The seating cards. The welcome sign downstairs. Ethan blinked once. Wait. He looked back toward the ballroom. That giant hand-painted flower wall. Olivia nodded again. That too. He looked genuinely surprised. That must have taken forever. Olivia gave a small laugh. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Late nights. Coffee. Panic attacks. More coffee. Ethan stared at her. And Chloe paid you for all that. Olivia looked away toward the city again. No. He frowned slightly. No. Olivia smiled, but it looked tired. Family discount. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. Ethan watched her carefully. Olivia kept looking outward, watching headlights move far below. My parents always said Chloe was special. She said it casually, like something repeated too many times to hurt anymore. She was the smart one, the outgoing one, the one people noticed first. Ethan stayed quiet. Olivia swallowed softly. I was usually the one helping in the background. Her fingers reached toward a cocktail napkin sitting beside a flower arrangement on the balcony table. Without thinking, she picked up a pen nearby and began drawing small lines across the corner of it. Ethan watched quietly. A tiny star slowly appeared beneath her hand. "Why stars?" he asked softly. Olivia looked down at it and smiled a little. "Because even small stars matter." Ethan stared at the drawing longer than expected. Then he looked back at Olivia. Somewhere inside the ballroom, people cheered loudly for the bride and groom. But out here, everything suddenly felt very still. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Tell me below. For a few seconds after saying it, Olivia kept staring at the city lights below. Tiny points of light stretched for miles, glowing against the darkness like little reminders that even distant things could still matter. Beside her, Ethan did not say anything immediately. Most people would have. Most people would have rushed to fill silence, because silence made them uncomfortable. But he just stood there, quiet, looking at the small star she had drawn on the napkin. Olivia finally looked sideways at him and smiled lightly. "What?" Ethan looked up. "Nothing. You're doing that thing." "What thing?" "That thinking thing." He raised an eyebrow. "Thinking thing?" "Yes." Olivia folded her arms dramatically. You suddenly get quiet and stare like somebody in a movie who just realized the secret meaning of life. Ethan stared at her for 2 seconds. Then he laughed softly. "I was not doing that." "You were absolutely doing that." "I was not." "You were." For a second, they just looked at each other. Then both of them smiled. Somewhere behind them, the ballroom doors opened, and several guests stepped outside, laughing loudly before disappearing toward the other end of the balcony. The moment quietly shifted. Ethan looked at his watch. Olivia noticed it. "Oh no." Ethan looked up. "What?" "You looked at your watch." "So?" Olivia pointed dramatically. "That means you were escaping." "Escaping. That is universal human behavior." Ethan crossed his arms. "You have a very interesting understanding of people." Olivia nodded seriously. "I watch documentaries." Ethan laughed again. "Movies before. Documentaries now. I am versatile." He shook his head, still smiling. A few minutes later they walked back inside. The reception was beginning to wind down. Some guests were leaving while others crowded around the dance floor, taking pictures. Olivia looked around and suddenly froze. "Wait." Ethan noticed immediately. "What happened?" Olivia looked toward her table. Empty. Then toward another table. Then another. Her expression changed instantly. "No, no, no." Ethan frowned. "Olivia." She looked at him with wide eyes. "My sketchbook." "Your what?" "My sketchbook." She turned quickly and looked around the ballroom again. "I had it with me earlier." Ethan watched her scanning the room. "Slow down." "I cannot slow down." She ran a hand through her hair, nervously. "I bring that thing everywhere." "Maybe it is in your car." Olivia shook her head quickly. "No." "Maybe at your table." "No." "Maybe." Olivia looked at him. "Ethan." He stopped. "Inside that sketchbook are 3 years of designs. Wedding sketches. Illustrations. Ideas." Her voice dropped slightly. "Everything." Ethan's expression softened. For the first time all evening, he saw genuine panic in her eyes. Olivia looked around again, already moving toward another table. "I need to find it." Ethan gently touched her arm. "We will find it." She looked at him. "We." Such a small word. Strange how comforting it sounded coming from somebody she had met less than an hour ago. Nearly 20 minutes later, they had checked tables, hallways, and corners of the ballroom. Nothing. Olivia looked defeated. Great. She forced a weak smile. Perfect ending to a perfect night. Ethan looked at her for a moment. Then his eyes shifted toward the elevator across the lobby. Something changed in his expression for a split second. Small, fussed, almost invisible. Olivia did not notice it. But Ethan suddenly did something strange. He reached down quietly and slipped the little napkin with a hand-drawn star into the inside pocket of his jacket. Olivia barely slept that night. By the time morning sunlight slipped through the blinds of her apartment window, she was already sitting on the edge of her bed staring at her phone. Her sketchbook. 3 years of ideas. 3 years of tiny pieces of herself living inside those pages. She had checked her car before leaving the hotel. Checked her purse twice. Even checked under the seats. Nothing. Around 9:30, her phone suddenly vibrated beside her. Olivia grabbed it so fast she almost dropped it. Unknown number. Her heart jumped. She opened the message immediately. Good morning. I think I found something that belongs to you. Underneath was a picture. Her sketchbook. Olivia sat frozen for 2 full seconds before standing so fast she hit her knee against the coffee table. Ow, worth it. 10 minutes later, she was all ready, driving back toward the Callaway Grand Hotel. The giant building rose into the morning sky, glass reflecting sunlight across downtown streets. Olivia practically rushed through the revolving doors and headed straight toward the front desk. Before she could say anything, the receptionist smiled immediately. Good morning, Miss Bennett. Olivia blinked. Good morning. The receptionist reached beneath the counter and pulled out a medium-sized cream-colored box with a ribbon around it. This was left for you. Olivia stared at it. For me? Yes. By who? The receptionist smiled politely. Mr. Ethan. Olivia picked up the box slowly. Somehow her stomach suddenly felt strange. Not bad strange, just strange. She moved toward a nearby sitting area and carefully opened the ribbon. Inside sat her sketchbook, perfectly untouched. Olivia immediately opened it and flipped through pages quickly. Every drawing was there, every note, every idea. Relief washed through her so fast, she actually laughed softly under her breath. Then she noticed something else inside, a folded piece of paper. She opened it slowly. 1 line, just 4 words. Coffee. Underneath was a time. 11:30. Then below there was a tiny hand-drawn star. Olivia stared at it and smiled before realizing she was smiling. She immediately stopped smiling, then started smiling again. 45 minutes later, Olivia found herself walking into a small outdoor street market 2 blocks from the hotel. She spotted Ethan almost instantly standing beside a coffee cart wearing a dark navy sweater instead of the black suit from last night. Somehow he looked completely different, more relaxed, more real. He looked up and smiled. You came. Olivia crossed her arms dramatically. I came for my sketchbook. Ethan nodded seriously. Of course. Definitely not for coffee. Naturally. Absolutely not for mysterious handwritten notes. Ethan stared at her. You are very committed to this. Olivia tried to keep a straight face for 2 seconds before failing. Ethan handed her a coffee cup. They started walking through the market together while people moved around them. Music played from somewhere nearby. Fresh bread, flowers, and food trucks lined the sidewalks. For the first time in weeks, Olivia felt something unfamiliar. Light. She looked sideways at Ethan while he quietly sipped his coffee. Then she smiled to herself. What she did not notice was Ethan looking at her at exactly the same moment. The rest of the afternoon passed faster than Olivia expected. They wandered through rows of food stands, little handmade shops, and old book tables sitting beneath strings of lights stretched across the street. Ethan somehow listened more than he talked. He noticed things most people missed. When Olivia slowed down near a painting stand, he noticed. When she stared 2 seconds longer at a tiny ceramic star hanging from a booth, he noticed that too. Hours later, they ended up near a small carnival section set up at the end of the market. Olivia looked toward a game booth and immediately smiled. Oh no. Ethan looked at her. What? Olivia pointed. Giant stuffed animals lined the back wall. You are playing. Ethan stared at the booth. Why? Because I want that bear. She pointed toward a giant cream-colored stuffed bear nearly 3 feet tall. Ethan looked at it and then looked at her. You know these games are basically legal robbery, right? Olivia folded her arms. Are you scared? Ethan raised an eyebrow. Scared? Yes. Olivia tried to look thoughtful. Actually, never mind. You probably cannot do it. Ethan slowly looked at her. That sounded like a challenge. Maybe. 10 minutes later, Ethan stood at the throwing line, looking completely confident. Too confident. He rolled his shoulders once. Watch this. Olivia bit her lip to stop herself from smiling. Ethan threw the first ball. Mississippi. Second throw. Mississippi. Third throw. Miss again. Olivia blinked. No way. Ethan stared at the bottles. That was a warm-up. 2 more throws. Mississippi, Mississippi. Olivia turned away and covered her mouth. Her shoulders shook immediately. Ethan narrowed his eyes. Are you laughing? Olivia looked back with tears in her eyes from laughing. No, you are. No, I am not. Olivia. She completely lost it. 5 minutes later, Ethan walked beside her carrying a giant stuffed bear under one arm after finally winning on what felt like his 20th try. Olivia looked at him and laughed all over again. You look ridiculous. Ethan looked down at the enormous bear blocking half his body. I regret everything. Olivia smiled up at him. For a moment, Ethan forgot to answer. He just looked at her. Really looked at her. Then his phone suddenly vibrated. Ethan glanced down at the screen, and the small smile on his face disappeared for half a second. Olivia noticed. Everything okay? Ethan slipped the phone back into his pocket quickly. Yes. You sure? Work. Olivia nodded slowly. A few minutes later, they walked toward the hotel entrance so Ethan could grab his car. The giant glass doors opened, and they stepped inside the lobby. Olivia took 2 steps and stopped. Completely stopped. Her eyes widened. 2 men wearing business suits immediately stood from nearby chairs. Good afternoon, Mr. Calloway. Olivia slowly turned her head. Ethan froze. Then a hotel manager rushed toward them carrying folders. Sir, the ownership meeting starts in 5 minutes. The board members are waiting upstairs. Silence. Complete silence. Olivia stared at Ethan, then toward the manager, then back at Ethan again. Her heartbeat suddenly felt loud inside her chest. Too loud. Small moments flashed through her mind. The wedding. The staff knowing her name. The sketchbook. The hotel. Everything. Every strange little thing suddenly connected at once. Ethan looked at her quietly. He already knew. The look on her face told him everything. Olivia took one slow step backward. Who are you? Would you forgive someone for hiding something like this? Tell me below. Olivia stared at him as people moved around them. Luggage wheels rolled across polished floors. Elevator doors opened and closed. Someone laughed near the coffee bar. But everything around her suddenly felt far away, muffled like she was underwater. Ethan looked back at her quietly. For the first time since they met, he did not seem to know what to say. Olivia let out a small laugh, but there was no humor in it. Mr. Calloway, she repeated softly. The manager beside them immediately looked uncomfortable. Ethan glanced toward him. Give us a minute. Yes, sir. The manager disappeared almost instantly. Olivia noticed that too. Everyone moved for him. Everyone listened. Everyone knew him. Except her. Ethan took one careful step closer. Olivia. She looked at him. You own this place? He nodded once. She stared at him another second. The entire hotel. Silence. Then another nod. Olivia felt her stomach twist. You are a millionaire? Ethan exhaled slowly. Yes. The word landed heavily between them. Olivia looked away from him and laughed again quietly. This time it sounded more like disbelief. Wow. Ethan said nothing. Olivia folded her arms and looked toward the lobby windows. Wow. Ethan watched her carefully. Olivia, I wanted to tell you. She looked back immediately. Really? He paused. Yes. When? Another pause. Ethan did not answer. Olivia gave a small nod. Exactly. The hurt in her voice hit harder than anger would have. Ethan stepped closer again. I did not lie about who I am. Olivia looked at him with wet eyes. You absolutely did. I never pretended to be somebody else. No. She shook her head slowly. You just conveniently forgot certain details. Ethan looked down for a second. I wanted someone to see me before seeing all of this. He looked around the hotel lobby. The money. The business. Everything. Olivia stared at him. For a second, part of her understood. Part of her really did. But another part remembered Ryan. Remembered secrets. Remembered finding out everyone else knew something, except her. You decided that for me, she said quietly. Ethan's face changed slightly. Olivia continued staring at him. You decided I should only know certain pieces of you. Olivia. No. Her voice was soft, but firm. Do you know what the worst part is? Ethan said nothing. Olivia looked down and laughed painfully. I actually felt stupid enough to believe this was real. Ethan's eyes widened slightly. Olivia, that is not. She shook her head immediately. No. She looked at him again. I spent an entire night with someone who made me forget I was hurting. Her voice weakened slightly near the end. And now I do not even know who I was with. Silence. Ethan looked like he wanted to say something, but nothing came out. For once in his life, words failed him completely. Olivia looked at him for another few seconds. Then she slowly handed him the giant stuffed bear he had won earlier. Ethan looked down at it, then back at her. Keep it, she said softly. You paid enough for it anyway. Ethan almost smiled automatically before realizing she was serious. Olivia stepped backward once. Then again. Goodbye, Ethan. She turned and walked toward the revolving doors without looking back. Ethan stood there holding a giant cream-colored stuffed bear in one hand while people walked around him. For the first time in years, he did not care about the meeting upstairs. He did not care about business calls. He did not care about anything except watching Olivia disappear through those glass doors. Hours later, long after sunset, Ethan sat alone inside his office. His eyes dropped toward the small hand-drawn napkin, star still resting inside his jacket pocket. 3 days passed, then 4, then 6. Olivia tried very hard not to think about Ethan Calloway. She told herself that repeatedly while sitting at her apartment desk, pretending to work on new illustration drafts. The problem was her pencil barely moved. Her sketchbook sat open in front of her, but the page remained almost empty except for small random stars scattered across the corner. Olivia stared at them and sighed. Ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. She dropped the pencil onto the desk and leaned back in her chair. Why was she thinking about him? He lied. Well, maybe not exactly lied. No. She crossed her arms. Definitively. Mostly lied. Sort of lied. She groaned and covered her face with both hands. Her phone suddenly vibrated beside her. Olivia reached over absent-mindedly. Unknown number again. Her stomach instantly did something strange. She opened the message. Miss Bennett, you are invited to a private exhibition tonight at the Calloway Grand Ballroom at 7 o'clock. Olivia frowned immediately. Exhibition? She stared at the screen another moment. No name. No explanation. Nothing else. By 6:50 that evening, Olivia stood outside the Calloway Grand Hotel again, staring up at the building. I should leave, she whispered to herself. She did not leave. 10 minutes later, she stepped inside and followed directions toward the ballroom. The hallway felt strangely quiet. No music. No voices. No guests. As she reached the ballroom doors, she stopped. The doors were already slightly open. Olivia pushed them gently. The room was dark. Completely dark. She stepped inside slowly. Hello. Nothing. Silence. Then suddenly soft lights flickered on. Olivia froze. One row. Then another. Then another. Her eyes widened. Every wall inside the ballroom had been transformed. Giant framed illustrations covered every inch of the room. Her illustrations, her sketches, her work, wedding designs, pencil drawings, small unfinished ideas she had forgotten years ago, color studies, floral patterns, tiny handwritten notes in the corners of pages. Olivia stared without breathing. Slowly she walked closer to one frame. Then another. Then another. Her fingers lightly touched the edge of one picture. Underneath it sat a small silver card. The girl who thought nobody noticed. Olivia swallowed hard. She moved farther into the room. More artwork surrounded her. More pieces of herself. Pieces nobody had ever cared enough to really see. Her eyes began to fill. At the far end of the ballroom, giant white letters stood beneath warm lights. The stars you never saw. Olivia stopped moving completely. Her chest tightened. Tears blurred her vision instantly. Then a voice quietly spoke behind her. You said small stars matter. Olivia slowly turned around. Ethan stood there wearing a simple dark suit. No tia. No business face. Just Ethan. He looked nervous. Actually nervous. Olivia had never seen that before. He stepped closer carefully. I spent 3 days looking through every page of your sketchbook. Olivia looked at him speechless. Ethan smiled softly. You draw people the way you wish people looked at you. Olivia felt tears sliding down her cheeks now. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. You were right that day. His voice lowered slightly. I decided for you. Silence filled the room. Ethan looked down briefly before looking back up again. I thought hiding parts of myself would protect me. He swallowed softly. I never realized it would hurt someone else instead. Then slowly, carefully, he took another step toward her. Olivia looked into Ethan's eyes, and for a few seconds neither of them moved. The ballroom around them felt suspended in time. Hundreds of her drawings surrounded them like pieces of life she had quietly hidden from everyone, even herself. She looked back at the giant words across the room. The stars you never saw. Then she looked at Ethan again. You did all this? She asked softly. Ethan gave a small, nervous smile. I had help hanging everything up. Olivia laughed through tears. That is not what I meant. Ethan looked at her for a moment before slowly reaching into his jacket pocket. Olivia watched as he carefully unfolded something small and slightly wrinkled. The napkin. The tiny star she had drawn that night on the balcony. Ethan looked down at it briefly. I kept this because I could not stop thinking about what you said. Olivia felt her throat tighten again. Ethan looked back at her. You said small stars matter. His voice became quieter. I think you were wrong about one thing. Olivia stared at him. What? Ethan smiled softly. You were never a small star. Silence filled the room again. Olivia felt tears slipping down her cheeks. This time she did not wipe them away. Ethan slowly walked closer. I'm not asking you to forget what happened. He swallowed slightly. I'm not even asking you to forgive me right now. Olivia looked at him carefully. Then what are you asking? Ethan smiled. One more dance. Olivia blinked. One more dance. Soft music suddenly began playing through hidden speakers inside the ballroom. Olivia stared at him in complete disbelief. Ethan extended his hand exactly like he had that first night. Exactly the same. Nobody should stand alone either. Olivia looked at his hand and laughed quietly through her tears. Then slowly she placed her hand into his. 1 year later, warm lights once again filled the same ballroom inside the Callaway Grand Hotel. Music drifted softly through the room while guests laughed around beautifully decorated tables. But this time Olivia was not sitting alone in the corner. This time she stood beneath glowing lights wearing a white dress while Ethan stood waiting beside her with a smile she now knew by heart. During the reception, Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Olivia stared at him immediately. Ethan, he opened it slowly. Inside was a beautiful ring with a tiny star engraved along the inside band. Olivia covered her mouth. Ethan smiled. I kept it. Then from his jacket, he carefully pulled out the old napkin one more time. Olivia stared at it in complete shock. You still have that? Ethan nodded. Some things are worth keeping forever. Olivia laughed as tears filled her eyes again. Ethan looked at her and extended his hand once more. Dance with me? Olivia smiled through tears and took his hand. Only if I'm still allowed to step on your shoes. Laughter filled the room around them. Sometimes life does not send the right person during your best moment. Sometimes they arrive when your heart feels broken and your world feels quiet. Sometimes the people who truly see us are the people we never expected to meet. If this story touched your heart, do not forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that even small stars deserve to be seen.